Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Just want to say thanks so much, Joe Flacco, for doing what you did tonight. What a show you put on for America. Thank you for taking the time, Joe. Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh, gosh. Oh, don't tackle me. Look at that.
It seems like by the end of these last two games, you've not been moving wonderfully.
Thank you. Do you want to race?
Shane. Shane, Shane. Allen.
Hey, what's going on? It's the 30th Parallel NFL Week 7 preview. I am Shane, and with me, as always, is the greatest podcast host of all time, Alan Mosley. How are you doing, sir?
If I were the greatest, I would also have cool little knitted leaf things.
Yeah, I know.
In the background. I'm missing the decor for sports podcasting, so I apologize in advance for that. Yeah. However, we're going to start right off the bat. This week, we're kicking off with a little buy or sell action. Starting number one with the Buffalo Bills, now suffering back-to-back losses after a 4-0 start. And the New England Patriots are on a 3-win win streak after starting 1-2. Ladies and gentlemen, the New England Patriots are now sitting in first place in the AFC East. Shane, are you buying or selling? The Patriots are back in Vrabel's first year as head coach.
I'm going to go ahead and say yes, I am buying that. And this isn't me saying, oh, they're going to go to the Super Bowl, they're going to go to the AFC Championship game. I just think they're competitive, and that's pretty much all you need in the Patriots right now, because they were not competitive for, I don't know how. I mean, who was the last coach? Gerard Mayo, whatever. That season was awful. Anything after that is great. So Mike Vrabel is a huge upgrade. He helped the Tennessee Titans be somewhat competent over there. So yes, I'm buying it 100%.
Hey, when all your highlights are against the New Orleans Saints, you must be a good team. Am I right? Am I right?
I mean, come on.
You know what? I'm actually buying this too. Of course, it kind of depends on what your definition of back is, but I think in this context, I agree with you. It's just being a competitive team. You know, the big story in my mind has been Drake May and his huge sophomore leap to start the season. He's 5th in yards, 4th in quarterback rating, 2nd in completion percentage at 73.2, despite also averaging 8.5 yards per attempt, which is good for 4th in the NFL. Vrabel has restored balance to the franchise. They're 11th in scoring offense and 7th in scoring defense. However, let's pour a little cold water on them while we're talking. Their opponents are a combined 15-21. All right. Yep. The Titans this weekend bring that down to 16-26. That includes 4 of the league's bottom 7 teams. The rest of the schedule is also pretty weak. So they're going to play the Browns, the Jets twice. They haven't even played the Jets yet. That's 12 losses right there. The Bengals, the Giants, the Ravens, and the Dolphins again, because they've already got them once. So at this point, I would say the question isn't whether or not they can make the playoffs. I think at this point they should, but how are they going to respond as those expectations start to rise? Yeah. The big story this weekend is Vrabel's going back to Nashville, right? But let's not all just memory hole the fact that those last few years for the Titans were pretty rough. So Vrabel has had his share of disappointing seasons too. So we'll check back in with the Patriots a little bit further down the road.
Yeah. Good point.
Buying or selling? We talked about the Patriots. Let's talk about the Bills. Shane, buying or selling? The Bills championship window is closing.
I'm going to go and say I am selling that. I think even though we're going to show some bad plays here, I think Josh Allen he's the guy there. Everyone else is just everyone but Josh Allen. So I think as long as you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, you're always going to have a chance to get into the Super Bowl. I know they haven't been into one, but they're always right there. But of course, that stupid Kansas City team's just always in the way. Kansas City, Baltimore, they're always in the way. And I think we can hold off on the whole it's closing. I mean, it's just one season. They've lost what, 2 straight now? It's hold your horses. It's going to be fine, Buffalo. It's going to be totally fine. I'm selling this, Josh Allen. You're the man.
Okay, well, listen, you're right about teams like Kansas City and Baltimore, neither of which are having a great season. However, I'm also selling this, but I'm going to pull a switcheroo on you. That's not because I think the window is wide open or closed. I think that they always have a puncher's chance every year as long as they have Josh Allen. The problem is that that's it. The reality is I'm not sure they really had much of a championship window to begin with. Like, look at the Bills on paper. The running game has come on this year. James Cook helping to take the pressure off of Allen. They're running for 151 yards a game. That's second in the NFL. When Josh Allen is struggling, he's still a top 10 quarterback. Like his floor is top 10. That's pretty good.
It's crazy.
But the same problems that have plagued the Bills like his entire career are still there. The defense is spotty at best. They're middle of the pack overall. They're 29th in stopping the run. What do they say all the time? You got to in the postseason, you got to run the ball and stop the run. This team can't stop the run.
Yeah.
And head coach Sean McDermott, he continues to make baffling decisions, particularly in crunch time, blown assignments, terrible clock management. Last thing, turnovers. First 4 weeks of the year, they had a 4-1 turnover margin in their favor. Big shocker, they're 4-0. Okay. The last 2 weeks, they have a 5-1 turnover margin against them. Hold your horses, 0-2 over that stretch.
Oh, man.
I don't think the Bills are exceptionally well coached or disciplined. I think what they have is a small core of world-class players on an otherwise below-average team.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're saying, it's literally just Josh Allen and everyone else. He has Stephon Diggs, but apparently their relationship couldn't mesh well, and now he's over in New England. And so now Josh Allen is stuck with, I don't even know who the receivers are. Yeah, New England of all places.
Diggs is doing great in New England.
Oh, yeah.
All right, move on to the next one here. Another team that has started 4-0 and then lost 2 straight, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they had a 21-17 loss to the Broncos, and then there was public comments from some players. Remember the whole A.J. Brown, his vague tweeting and stuff. And then they had a players-only meeting with quarterback Jalen Hurts, running back Saquon Barkley, wide receiver A.J. Brown. What was the result of that? A 34-17 loss to the lowly Giants.
Good meeting.
Buying or selling, Shane? It's time for the Eagles to shake up the roster.
100% buy. I think the tush push can only take you so far. And of course, Jalen Hurts. Look, that was probably the biggest knock on Jalen Hurts is that he's just not that good of a passer. He's not a good decision maker when it comes to passing. He could run the ball. He's athletic in that way, but when it comes to passing, and I know we just said you have to run the ball and you have to stop the run to win championships. But if you want to win games, you got to be able to pass the ball. I mean, look at this. It's just like,
yes,
come on, Jalen, you got to be able to pass the ball. You can't. You got to stop just standing around, and you can't just completely rely on your athleticism. Like, it'll get you places, but it's not going to win you games. So yes, I'm buying this.
I'm also buying it because to me at this point it's clear that there's kind of something wrong under the surface. Yeah. In the same way that we've talked about the Ravens' biggest issue being an identity crisis, but we'll look at that one. Losing that physical grit and defensive mindset that sort of carried the Ravens for years. The Eagles are equally schizo. 1 week they try to pound the rock. They have a little success. Yeah. And then just like in years past, and then they give up on the run in the second half like they did in the Broncos game. They led that game 17-3 in the fourth quarter, and Saquon in a game that they just needed to run out the clock, Barkley finished with 6 carries. What the hell is going on in their offensive play calling where Saquon Barkley touches the ball 6 times, right? In another week, they're trying to throw the ball all over the yard like they did last week against the Giants in a 31-17 loss. Listen to this. Hurts has 101 pass attempts over the first 4 weeks, barely averaging 150 yards a game, but they're 4-0. In the last 2 weeks, he's thrown the ball 71 times, almost as many pass attempts in 2 weeks as the first 4. Barkley had 77 carries over those first 4 games, which by his standards is still low.
Yeah.
He's only had 18 carries combined in those 2 losses. You have the most talented running back in the NFL. He's averaging 9 touches a game. What?
That's crazy. That's
You
insane.
mentioned the tush push, and we've talked about this already on the show with the officiating of the tush push. If it wasn't for the league's complete negligence and not calling the Eagles for snap infractions, they would have a losing record right now. So all I can say is like, look, I'm sure the 49ers would love to have A.J. Brown on their team. I'm sure a lot of teams would like to have. I'm sure the Eagles would like to have A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of other problems, and they have some consistency issues, particularly in the defensive front. I think if they could shore that up in exchange for A.J. Brown, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, okay, so that players meeting, what do you think they were discussing? Hey, let's throw the ball more. And Saquon Barkley's like, yeah, I agree with that. Let's do that. And then 0-2 is like, see, I told you shouldn't have ran the ball more. It's like, no, you were agreeing with us. What are you talking about? Yeah, I don't even know what they're doing with the whole players only meeting. Whatever. Just
Who knows? A lot of people kind of hypothesize that was their way of kind of smoothing things over and promising that they would give Brown more targets. The problem is that it worked in the sense that his numbers went up, but they also went 0-2. They're a run first physical team. I can't.
Right.
They have Saquon Barkley. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Moving on. The other 2 teams that are on 3-game win streaks besides the Patriots are the Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears. The Broncos were a trendy preseason pick to win the AFC West, yours truly included. And they started 1-2, but now they've pulled even with the Chargers at 4-2. The Bears were an even worse 0-2, and now are essentially a game out of the division lead, with the Vikings and Lions both having 2 losses, and the Packers have a tie. So with that said, buying or selling, we're going to start with the Broncos. The Denver Broncos are back on track to win the AFC West.
I mean, if the Chiefs continue to be mediocre and the Raiders continue to suck, if Geno Smith continues to throw multiple interceptions a game, and the LA Chargers are probably going to be their biggest competition, but they're not consistent either, it seems like. So, yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that they are back on track to win the AFC West. Bye. Bye.
Okay. Well, obviously they were my preseason pick, so I kind of feel a little bit compelled to stick with them. Both of their early season losses, by the way, were last-second field goal defeats. So it's kind of an attractive 4-2, right? It's not like they were blown out twice. Most importantly, Bo Nix is playing better, but he doesn't have to play hero ball for them to win. You know why? Because despite having head coach Sean Payton, who is an offensive guru, they're 7th in rushing offense, which helps out Bo Nix. Did you know the Denver Broncos have the number 2 scoring defense?
I saw that. Yeah, that's shocking.
They lead the league in sacks with 30 sacks. Like that right there. 30 sacks.
Yep.
I think as long as a Sean Payton coach team has a top 5 defense, that's a playoff team.
Well, as long as I don't do any of that bounty gate, and I think we're good to go over there in Denver. Oh, yeah, right.
Buying or selling. Let's move on to the Bears. Buying or selling. The Chicago Bears will make the playoffs.
Oh, God. Out of all of the things that you have to say, the Chicago Bears make the playoffs. No, they're not. No, I do not trust Caleb Williams. I'm sorry. I never liked him as a quarterback. That to me is like the end all be all. If your quarterback is I don't know if I can trust you. I mean, look, I know that there's history. I know Trent Dilfer was at quarterback, but their defense was legendary. That's why they got to the Super Bowl and won. What are the Chicago Bears now? What are they? I mean, I'm so flabbergasted. I'm going to go and say sell. The Chicago Bears are. You have the Lions. The Green Bay Packers are probably still going to go somehow. And then who's the other team in the Vikings?
Vikings.
Yeah, so there you go. Chicago Bears, no selling.
Well, I'm not going to gloss over the fact they just had a huge win, and they've won 3 straight. Win over the Redskins, big win.
Moody.
It's been a good run, but I'm selling it because, just to be fair, they're still last place in their own division, right?
Yeah.
Unless you think that 4 teams out of the NFC North are going to make the playoffs, which, by the way, isn't impossible with the way this division is looking.
That's true. Good point, yeah.
But unless you think all 4 are going, the Bears are not going. The defense has been bad. This is not your uncle's Bears. They're 27th in scoring defense. They're giving up 28.2 points a game.
Yikes.
The Bears. Caleb Williams has been improved. Can't take that away from him. But he still hovers somewhere in the area between 16th and 20th among active QBs, depending on what stats you're looking at. They're also 18th in rushing, so they haven't had that usual stout Bears defense or running game for him to lean on. They're having to lean on Caleb Williams to carry that offense. Their 3 wins are over teams that are currently 500 or worse. Their 2 losses are against teams that are above 500. So that kind of sounds like they're an average team. That's probably a fair description for the Bears, but it may end up being that a 500-ish team is the last wildcard team. But assuming that the wildcard teams are all double-digit winners, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add there. I think if it's going to be some kind of random wildcard team, then it's probably going to be the Packers. From that division, I don't see the Bears getting in there at all. I mean, I'm probably going to be wrong. I mean, I've made videos where I was like way off. So that's definitely a possibility where I'm way off, but I'm going to go and continue to say sell.
All right, we're going to move on to number 4. The Vegas odds now place Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes as the new frontrunner for NFL MVP, followed closely by Tampa Bay quarterback Baker Mayfield, then Buffalo's Josh Allen. New England quarterback Drake May and Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford are more distant 4th and 5th place. Okay. Buying or selling, Patrick Mahomes is the current NFL MVP frontrunner.
Selling, it's Baker Mayfield. I'm a Niners fan. I saw Baker Mayfield. He made some amazing plays. He's playing great. I think Baker Mayfield should be number 1, but I think because it's Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, you have the 2 big names that are quarterbacks right now. That's probably why Patrick Mahomes is right now as the number 1 MVP right now. But look, the team is not that great. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been playing that great either. And look, I know they beat the Detroit Lions, but I'm going to go and say, no, I sell this. I think Patrick Mahomes should be like distant 4. Matthew Stafford is a distant 5th. No, even he's playing better than Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so I'm selling because first of all, we know that the league definitely is biased towards quarterbacks for MVP, but they're also biased towards teams that are winning. It's going to take a lot more than a 500 record by the Chiefs to get them back on track. Yeah. Now, this past week's win over the Lions was tremendous. Mahomes was 22 of 30, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns. But that's only 1 week removed from a 31-28 loss to the Jaguars where he threw a 99-yard pick 6. So if the season ended today, the Chiefs would be the first team out of the playoffs. That's not getting you an NFL MVP, just FYI. Meanwhile, let's look at a few of those other players. Baker Mayfield leads Mahomes in yards, average per attempt, completion percentage, touchdowns, less interceptions, and his team is number 1 in the NFC at 5-1. That's a clean sweep. How is this even a conversation? If the season ended today and Mahomes had more votes, kill the award. It's not worth anything. Matthew Stafford, you mentioned. He leads all quarterbacks with 1,684 yards. Drake May, that we mentioned earlier, also leads Mahomes in almost every category. And by the way, the Patriots also have a better record than the Chiefs, as does every other player that we mentioned. There's a lot of football left to be played, but right now, today, based on the action we've seen, I wouldn't even put Mahomes among the top 5 quarterbacks. And that's not even to mention, just FYI to the MVP voters, you can vote for players other than quarterbacks. Just putting
you can, but they're not going to.
There's a guy in Atlanta named Bijan Robinson that accounts for more yards than some teams, just FYI.
Yeah.
Last one before we move on, number 5. Going into the 2025 season, many considered the AFC North to be the toughest division in football. However, heading into Week 7, the Steelers posted a 4-1 record. They're now 4-2, by the way, after last night's IcyHot Bowl. The rest of the division combined for 5 wins and 14 losses. Now, last night notwithstanding, the Bengals can't seem to sustain any momentum or keep Joe Burrow healthy. The Ravens are 1-5, and they're chanting "Fire Harbaugh" at their games. And the Browns just traded their best quarterback to a divisional rival. Only the Steelers have a winning record, though the feeling is Tomlin has to kind of run away with this division and win in the postseasons with Rodgers, or he may be gone too. So with that as the backdrop, buying or selling, the AFC North is currently the weakest division in football.
I think you can make some arguments there. I think for sure AFC North is definitely really weak. I mean, going over some of these other ones, you see the AFC East, the Patriots and Bills are 4-2, then the Dolphins and Jets are just bottom of the barrel. And then over in the NFC, what's another sort of kind of comparable weak division? The NFC North we were talking about, the Packers and Lions, Vikings and Bears are all around kind of in the over 600.
Well, that's 4 teams with winning records.
Right. But other than that, I think even like the NFC East is also not, I mean, Giants and Cowboys. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, look, I think you're going to buy as of right now, buy, but it's very possible that you could see other divisions that I've mentioned being in that category of weakest division.
So here, we'll look at a few factoids right here. 2 of the bottom 6 teams in the NFL are in our AFC North teams, the Ravens and Browns. It feels weird to say Ravens, but they're 1-5. Yeah. The only comparable division right now to the AFC North is the AFC East, who also has 2 of the bottom 6 teams, the Dolphins and Jets. However, their other 2 teams are both 4-2.
Yeah.
Whereas the Bengals are also a losing team. Now, we've been saying all season that the Steelers feel like frauds. And you know what? They just dropped a game to the Bengals led by Joe Flacco, who's been in town for 10 days. They're followed by those 3-4 Bengals who are minus Joe Burrow. Then you have the 1-5 Ravens minus Lamar Jackson and absolutely anything resembling a defense. And then you have the 1-5 Browns who are now missing Joe Flacco for some weird reason. Those divisions teams, listen to this. This is my ultimate buying. The teams of the AFC North have a combined point differential of negative 182. No other division is within 100 points of being as bad as the AFC North. Holy crap. With that said, buying or selling, is it time for some fresh blood in every AFC North locker room and front office?
Yeah. Just get rid of every single one. Maybe keep Mike Tomlin because he's going to be there forever, it seems like. So, yeah, keep them all there. In Pittsburgh, everyone else can go, other places.
Well, the thing is that you hear me say this all the time. The question isn't who you're going to fire. The question is who are you going to replace him with, right?
Yeah.
So everyone wanted Mike Tomlin fired last season. But last season, they still went 10-7 and made the playoffs, and that was with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. By the way, those guys are a combined 0-9 this year, in case you were keeping score.
There you go.
But they went 10-7 in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. Ravens fans are chanting "Fire Harbaugh" because of their lack of postseason success in the Lamar Jackson era. Well, you know what? John Harbaugh's only gone 173-109 in his career, 13-11 in the playoffs. That's 11 playoff trips, 5 AFC North titles, a Coach of the Year, and a Super Bowl. But hey, what have you done for us lately?
It's not good enough.
It's not good enough.
Nope.
Well, as I stress to everyone, okay, fire Harbaugh and Tomlin. You know what? Both of those guys will be coaching next year, and both of those teams will be searching for a new coach.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Week 6 Q&A. We're gonna do a little themed edition. This is the Week 6 Q&A hot seat edition. We're talking about coaches on the hot seat. We're starting off. The Tennessee Titans became the first team to fire their head coach this season, relieving Brian Callahan of his duties. He had a 4-19 record over 1 1/3 season, including 1-5 to start this year. Shane, did they make the right call?
Yeah, I think what was his record? Like 400,000.
419.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
not. He wasn't very good as a coach. He was decent as an offensive coordinator, I believe it was. But other than that, I mean, the only reason why they won was because the Cardinals couldn't keep the ball in their hands, and the guy kept. We've already talked about it, fumbling before you cross the goal line, getting an interception, and then freaking fumbling it, and the Tennessee Titans recovering their own interception, getting in the end zone. No, come on. Yes, they made the right decision. I don't know who they're going to hire as their head coach. Maybe be Mike McCoy, who's the interim head coach. But you know what? Maybe I don't know. Go get Deion Sanders. Why not?
Yeah. Well, that would be one disaster after another.
I know.
So here's the thing. The Titans, the same as the Jets, the same as the Browns, the same as a number of other teams. It's such an uphill battle. You're a small market team. You have ownership that's really only interested in cashing their little socialist checks from the profit sharing that the NFL enjoys. I mean, basically, the Dallas Cowboys are paying the Tennessee Titans to have a football team. Let's call it what it is. But with that said, it's like, if the situation is that bad, what difference does it make? What chance did Brian Callahan ever really have to run the Tennessee Titans when the roster is that bad, when management is that bad, when ownership is that bad, and of course the quarterback situation is that bad? In year one, they bring him in to, fix Will Levis. Well, that was a fool's errand. Will Levis should have never been drafted, certainly not by them. And then they follow it up. They have the number one pick in the draft. They go out and get Cam Ward. Now, look, I sympathize with QBs who are fresh out of school, who in Cam Ward's case, he hasn't even gone 2 full months of his NFL career, and he's already have a coaching change. That's very little chance for him to develop. Whoever they bring in next year is going to be told, you have to work with Cam Ward. We're not going to draft another QB when we just draft a QB number one. Right. But then maybe that guy doesn't want Cam Ward. Maybe he decides Cam Ward's not good enough. Maybe Cam Ward isn't good enough, but we don't know because the team is this dysfunctional. However, let me give you here's another little factoid you might find interesting. Cam Ward, through his first 6 games, has had the 4th highest time to throw at 2.95 seconds. Now, to be clear, that's not necessarily saying, his offensive line is great. We know the Titans' offensive line isn't great. Him having a higher amount of time to throw is probably because he's doing a lot of scrambling to buy himself time. Right. But nevertheless, just keep that in the back of your head. Almost 3 seconds to throw. That's 4th highest in the NFL. What does he do with all that time? He has the 3rd highest off-target rate. Off-target rate is measured as a throw that is so bad that there's nothing the receiver could have done. It was an uncatchable ball. He has the 3rd highest off-target rate at 20.7%. Over 1/5 of every throw he makes is so far off target that his guy didn't have a chance to make a play on the ball. So the point is this organization has a whole lot of problems. Is Brian Callahan a great coach? Probably not. Who are they going to get? Who are they going to get that's going to do better? The answer is I don't think anyone exists.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I said Deion Sanders tongue-in-cheek, but it'd be hilarious. We need to bring some big names so people will care about Tennessee Titans. Let's bring on Deion Sanders.
He would do significantly worse and then be fired in a season or two, while probably demanding more money.
And if you want Cam Ward to be the franchise quarterback, you have to get someone who knows how to work with quarterbacks. So you can't get a defensive-minded coach unless that defensive-minded coach hires a really good offensive coordinator. That's definitely possible. But you have to get a head coach who knows what they're doing when it comes to quarterback play.
Well, look, they moved on from Vrabel, who's now killing it in New England because they felt like Vrabel couldn't get the team turned around, and he was a defensive-minded coach. Well, they brought in Brian Callahan because he's the guy that got credit for the Joe Burrow Bengals offense.
Yeah, he
was their top pick. The Titans wanted Brian Callahan. They got their guy, and they didn't even give him a season and a half before he was given the pink slip. So again, it's not about who you're going to fire. It's who you're going to hire to replace him. I don't think any genuinely top tier coach wants to coach for the Tennessee Titans. And on top of that, I don't think that there's a coach if the Steelers fire Mike Tomlin, what's he going to do? Go to Nashville and have a worse roster, a worse management, and a worse owner? No, that's a terrible decision on his part. Now, something we were looking at, Fox Sports had a hot seat rankings on their website, and they did, believe it or not, have Brian Callahan at their number one. Of course, now that he's gone, they've updated their rankings. Let me tell you what their rankings currently are. Number one is Mike McDaniel, Miami Dolphins. Number two, Kevin Stefanski, Cleveland Browns. Number three, Brian Daboll, New York Giants. Number four, Jonathan Gannon, Arizona Cardinals. Number five, Zach Taylor, the Cincinnati Bengals. Number six, Dave Canales of the Panthers. And finally, number seven, Aaron Glenn of the Jets. I'll ask you, Shane, who from that list is your pick to be the next one to get a pink slip? And also, question B, is there someone not on that list that you think belongs?
Well, I think the easy choice would be Mike McDaniel. I mean, the Dolphins are just not a good team. So I think that's just low-hanging fruit. And it just seems it's going to happen at some point. I don't think even if the season ends with a somewhat decent record, I can't imagine him being the coach after this season. I think it's done for him. Kevin Stefanski, I think he'll probably still be around for at least another year or two. And I think Brian Daboll, if the thing that's happened with Jackson Dart really does work out well, especially towards the end of the season, they end up winning with a winning record. I think Brian Daboll will be safe for at least next season. In terms of my choice, though, Aaron Glenn and the Jets, that team is so bad. He makes Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins look like Casablanca. That's how good they are. So
wow,
the Dolphins,
quite a reference.
Yeah, the Jets are bad. So I'm going to go and say Aaron Glenn, Jets, is the next one to be fired. Now, someone not on the list, Kyle Shanahan, 49ers. All right, moving on.
Oh, my God. Here we go. All right. So I definitely believe that Mike McDaniel is going. So here's the thing. I think multiple guys on that list are out. I think multiple guys on that list will be fired by the end of the year. I agree with you. Brian Daboll is out unless they make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, he's out. If they make the playoffs, magically he stays in. I think Stefanski is also going to be out, which is a little bit bittersweet. Look, they're the Browns. Stefanski, by Browns standards, has been a successful head coach, but by most other team standards, he hasn't been. The problem is that they're very similar to the Titans, that it's such a poorly managed organization that I just don't see any upside there. The thing about Mike McDaniel is that his entire pedigree is, I'm an offensive genius who you let me install my system and we're going to revolutionize the NFL. Well, you know what? This year's Dolphins are 26th out of 32 teams in offense. So Mike McDaniel's days are numbered based on that alone. However, I think Jonathan Gannon, who is the only NFC West team with a losing record right now, by the way, a 4-game losing streak. I think if that gets much longer, he's also out. Zach Taylor of the Bengals probably just had his job saved by Joe Flacco. What a time to be alive where you can say the sentence, Zach Taylor's job has been saved by Joe Flacco, but that sentence does make sense this week. And same thing for teams like the Panthers and the Jets. They're just such poorly managed organizations that are so far removed from consistent leadership and competitiveness that it's like, what difference does it make? What are you going to do? Yeah, that's the closest he ever got to winning, and then they lost that game anyway. Now, I will add to you the guy that's not on that list that I think should be, that will also definitely be fired this year, is Las Vegas Raiders Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is 8,000 years old. He was there at the start of the universe. Yes, that guy right there. We so quickly forget that Pete Carroll is not some wonderkin coach who can fix anybody. His last few seasons in Seattle were atrocious. That was a losing team, and they were happy to move on from him. And now, after some years away from the game, he's come back. He's even older. His style of coaching no longer resonates. And again, the Raiders, best case scenario, the Raiders are another couple of years, maybe even 3, away from being a serious contender. do you think Pete Carroll is going to be coaching another 2, 3, 4 years from now? I think you got to go find someone younger with a lot more energy who's going to be there for the long haul to rebuild. None of those words are synonymous with a 70-something-year-old head coach. So I'm going to say Mike McDaniel is for sure the hot, most likely gone, but put Pete Carroll on the list.
Well, it definitely doesn't help Pete Carroll's case that Geno Smith's playing like absolute garbage. So that doesn't help at all.
It doesn't help, but whose decision was that to go get him? It all comes back to him. He's gone.
Say no more.
Yes. On that note, we're going to wrap up the show with this week's picks. You know, I try to find different teams to make picks of so that we're not picking the same teams every single week. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult because different teams are playing different teams each week. So forgive me if one or two of these games aren't the most competitive chart-topping games of the week. But we're going to start with the New Orleans Saints going on the road to play the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 4.5-point favorites. What do you think?
Wow. Game of the week. I feel game of the week vibes from this one for sure. I think Chicago Bears got this one in the bag, as the kids say. -4.5. Sounds good to me.
I think the Bears win, but they don't cover. The Saints are a step of the ladder above all of those other terrible teams we talked about. Spencer Rattler has actually kept that team competitive. He's not playing that bad. The Saints have a lot of problems. I don't think they should rush to go get another quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler can play. The Saints have also covered against the spread multiple times this year. Remember, they've won a game, and they were competitive against teams like the Bills and the 49ers and the Cardinals. Yes. I think the Saints lose, but they bust the spread. Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, fresh off of their 2-loss streak, going on the road to play the Minnesota Vikings. Despite the Eagles being 0-2 the last 2 weeks, the Vikings are actually 1.5-point home underdogs. Wow. What do you think?
Well, I think the Super Bowl champion smell from the Eagles, I think, is still on them. So I think that's the reason why the Minnesota Vikings are the underdog. But I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings in this. I do not like the Philadelphia Eagles in their offense. It's boring. So I'm taking the Vikings plus 1.5, 1.5, whatever.
The Vikings feel like an incomplete team. They have a very good defense and a very inconsistent offense. JJ McCarthy he just hasn't been on the field enough for us to know one way or another if he's going to be the guy. But we know that people like Carson Wentz are not long-term options. We already know that. He's a backup at best. Yeah. So it seems like games like this are, what week will the Eagles finally put it together? Because you feel like if the Eagles just called a game plan where Saquon Barkley ran the ball 25 times and Jalen Hurts only took what the defense gave them, they could beat anybody in the NFL, but they just won't. They just won't do it. I'm going to say that the Eagles need this win because a 3-game skid would be a disaster for them. And the Eagles do win the game. The Indianapolis Colts, that's a team that we haven't talked a ton about so far today, despite being a hot team. And we also didn't talk at all about, when we were talking about all those great quarterbacks so far this year, we didn't talk about Danny Dimes once. No. Indianapolis Colts going on the road to play the LA Chargers. The Chargers, another team with a hot start and an inconsistent present, and yet they're 1.5-point favorites over the Colts. I don't know. I didn't make the lines. What do you think?
I think the Indianapolis Colts are, like you're saying, they're a hot team. Daniel Jones has just completely reinvented himself. He looks like a $1 million out there. I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to go into are going to face LA. They're going to continue to make LA Chargers look inconsistent. I think the Colts got this.
You know what? I feel like we've agreed on almost every single point this show, which makes for like no drama at all. But I'm going with the Colts as well. I think they can cover a 1.5-point spread. They've cooled off a little bit, but they've still managed to stay in the win column most weeks. The Chargers, on the other hand, kind of hit the wall there, and I'm not 100% sure what's wrong. We do know that Amarian Hampton is on injured reserve. That's a hit to their running game. They're going to rely more on Herbert, and I think that the Colts are a more complete team than the Chargers. So I'm going to take the Colts. Yeah. Finally, another game of the week right here. The Washington Redskins coming off their loss to the Bears at the Dallas Cowboys coming off their loss to the Panthers. NFC Championship preview, question mark. The Cowboys are 1.5 point home underdogs as well. What do you think?
Wow. I mean, the Cowboys losing to the Panthers, that probably doesn't feel good for their spirit. I think they're going to come after that embarrassing loss to the Panthers. I think they're going to come back. They're going to beat the Redskins. The plus 1.5, that don't worry about that, Cowboys. You got this. Make the Redskins look bad, please, for Allen's sake.
I think that the Dallas Cowboys have been a losing team despite the fact that Dak Prescott, much to my chagrin, has actually played at a very high level. Dak Prescott has had a very good season statistically, but we've seen this story before. Dak is on paper is good, but the Cowboys have more losses than wins. We've seen this play out how many times already? I think that Dak is going to have another game where he puts up a lot of yardage and maybe even a few scores, but they have another loss in the win-loss column.
So I'm going to
go Redskins.
That garbage time for Dak Prescott. Yeah. Money. Yeah.
Light it up in the fourth when you're down 3 scores. Amen, brother. Shane, do you have a final thought?
I do. A couple of things that I wanted to mention.
No, pick one. We're not doing this crap again. It's a final thought, not final thoughts.
My final thought is I have 3 thoughts I got to tell you. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we talked about Joe Flacco. No, it's one. I promise. It's
okay.
One.
Joe Flacco.
He's 41, right? I think he's 41.
No.
Okay. He has 12 wins versus Mike Tomlin, including the playoffs. Now, only QBs with more versus a coach in Super Bowl era are Ben Roethlisberger, 25 versus Marvin Lewis, Cincinnati Bengals head coach, who was there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger again, 16 versus John Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens. So he's beat him. Darn. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's got nightmares about that. Jim Kelly, 15 versus Don Shula, that legendary matchup. John Elway, 15 as well versus Marty Schottenheimer. And Peyton Manning, 13 versus the mediocre Jeff Fisher. Mm-hmm. So that's my final thought. Joe Flacco, you're in good territory.
All of those, it requires one of them be good, but also the other one be around for a long time. They can't be so bad they get fired because then you can't beat them anymore. Right, Marvin Lewis? God, that's a name that we can all quickly forget. I'll tell you what, my final thought is, I sort of hinted this when we talked about the MVPs.
Yeah.
Every single player at the top of the Vegas odds are quarterbacks. I think that last year the MVP should have been Saquon Barkley. I don't think it should have been who gets it between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. The answer of who wins is Saquon Barkley. I think that it's the system doesn't work. Now, of course, Saquon Barkley is not going to win it this year, but the system doesn't work if there's no other players at any other position that are even in the running. As I already mentioned earlier, I think that there's probably, 31 other teams that would be happy to have Bijan Robinson on their team. The Falcons are another team that are decidedly mediocre with a top 5 best player in the NFL on their roster in his prime. # free Bijan. That's my final thought.
Yep. 49ers Falcons. Let's go. Come on. Let's do this. Thanks everybody for watching.